Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are living on the absolute razor's edge of motorsport. We're going to use a series of incredibly detailed, cinematic, AI-generated scenes, focusing specifically on some of Lewis Hamilton's most notorious accidents, to unpack the true anatomy of a collision. We want to uncover why these unbelievable machines actually crash. We're going to break down the mechanics, the environment, and the human elements that all combine to lead to disaster on the track.
Okay, let's dive right into this. When you see a Formula One car spinning off the track in a massive shower of sparks, it is so easy to just see twisted metal and bad luck. But what truly causes the chaos when a Formula One car crashes? We're going to look way beyond the debris today to understand the immense, colliding forces, both physical and psychological, that are at play in every single incident.
So, here's our roadmap for the day. First, weather and track limits. Then, the opening lap chaos. After that, fierce wheel-to-wheel battles. And finally, modern safety and resilience.
All right, part one, weather and track limits. Or as I like to call it, nature versus the circuit.
Sometimes the absolute biggest threat to a driver isn't the car next to them, it's factors completely outside of their control. Picture this scene. Lewis Hamilton driving through heavy rain at the Nürburgring. A Formula One car aquaplaning off a soaked track, massive water spray, dark storm clouds rolling in overhead. When nature unleashes conditions like this, visibility drops to zero, and honestly, even the best drivers in the world simply become passengers to the elements.
So the crucial point here is aquaplaning. Basically, this happens when a vehicle loses traction because a literal layer of water builds up between the tires and the road surface. It makes control absolutely impossible. The car effectively turns into a speedboat, skimming the surface, totally disconnected from the tarmac. You can't steer, and you certainly can't brake.
Let's break down the specific variables at play in a moment like this. You have heavy rain pouring down, you've got the instant, terrifying onset of aquaplaning, and then you add in massive water spray blinding everyone behind. When these three factors combine, you've got the perfect storm for a high-speed collision. The driver loses sight, loses grip, and inevitably loses control of the entire machine.
But hey, it's not just the weather, right? Track limits are just as dangerous. Look at this crazy contrast. On one hand, you have the Monaco street circuit, tight corners, luxury yachts in the harbor, narrowly avoiding barriers where one single millimeter of misjudgment means you're hitting the wall. And then, on the other hand, this Silverstone circuit, high-speed corners, tire smoke, flying sparks, where the sheer velocity makes any error catastrophic. Different environments dictate completely different yet equally devastating types of crashes.
Okay, moving on to part two, the opening lap chaos, the high-stakes start.
The tension is at its absolute peak here. You have 20 cars rushing toward the exact same braking zone. Just imagine the sudden, frantic shock of this exact moment at the Spanish Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg colliding on the opening lap. Both Mercedes sliding hopelessly into the gravel as massive dust clouds erupt, and spectators are just watching in total shock. In a fraction of a second, the massive anticipation of the start turns into a race completely turned upside down.
What's really interesting about this is how one split second of opening lap tension immediately results in these compounding, chaotic variables. You start with tightly clustered cars making contact, which leads to heavy machinery sliding out of control into the gravel, which kicks up these sudden dust clouds, and ends with complete spectator shock. It's literally a chain reaction of chaos.
Or check out this collision at Monza. Hamilton's car making contact, sending carbon fiber flying everywhere into the packed grandstands. The sheer motion blur and flying carbon fiber you see here is the direct, violent result of 20 cars aggressively funneling into a tight chicane on cold tires.
Which brings us to part three, fierce wheel-to-wheel battles, the human factors and rivalries. Here, we're stepping away from the uncontrollable environment and focusing purely on the human factors. The intense, deeply personal rivalries that push competitors right over the absolute limit. And this brilliantly illustrates that exact tension. The British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen battling wheel-to-wheel through a high-speed corner. You've got tire smoke, flying sparks, crazy dramatic tension, packed grandstands. Two fiercely competitive rivals refusing to yield the racing line practically guarantees explosive contact. And the intensity doesn't stop there. Visualize this high-speed scene at the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. Hamilton and Rosberg making contact under a dramatic overcast sky right at the notoriously dangerous Eau Rouge corner. Making high-speed contact here shows exactly how far these personal rivalries will push drivers. So let's break down the brutal mechanics of a rivalry-induced crash.
When you race wheel-to-wheel with absolutely zero margin for error, it almost always degrades into high-speed contact. That instantly leads to tire punctures, showers of flying sparks, blinding tire smoke, and just immense dramatic tension. It is, quite literally, the human ego completely overriding the mechanical limits of the car.
All right, let's slow it down a bit and move to our final section, modern safety and resilience, surviving the chaos.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because after the smoke clears, what happens? The true miracle of Formula One isn't just the speed, it's how these drivers actually survive the incredible chaos we've just discussed. Look at this collision at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Lewis Hamilton's car resting in the gravel, sparks flying, but he is protected by the Halo device as emergency marshals rapidly approach.
The absolute hero of that scene is the Halo safety device. This is an engineering feature designed specifically to protect the driver's head during a dramatic collision from flying debris and other vehicles. Honestly, despite the fierce rivalries, the tight tracks, and the crazy weather we've talked about, this piece of titanium engineering is exactly why drivers survive impacts today that would have been completely unthinkable just a few decades ago. And that brings us to this incredibly warm, highly emotional final image. Lewis Hamilton walking away safely from a damaged car, race marshals and the medical team standing nearby, all with a beautiful sunset over the circuit symbolizing resilience. That's cinematic sunset imagery, and seeing the driver just walk away paints a truly powerful picture of triumph over disaster. This right here is the core takeaway of our entire explainer today: resilience, walking away safely. Because modern engineering and unrelenting safety standards ultimately triumph over the uncontrollable chaos of bad weather, punishing track limits, and the absolute ferocity of human revelries. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to marvel at. As these cars get inevitably faster and these intense wheel-to-wheel battles get even closer, how will modern engineering continue to outpace the chaos of a collision? It is an incredible race between speed and safety technology, and we're incredibly lucky to watch it unfold every single season. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today.